The forest regeneration scheme that we are going to talk about in this video had a noble goal: to restore degraded lands with native trees and plants, and to provide multiple benefits for the environment and the local communities. However, the scheme faced many challenges and obstacles that prevented it from making a significant difference. In this section, we will explore some of these challenges and obstacles in terms of funding, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. One of the main challenges for the scheme was to secure adequate and consistent funding. Forest regeneration is not a cheap or quick process. It requires long-term investment and commitment from various sources, such as governments, donors, businesses, and landowners. However, the scheme struggled to attract and retain funding partners who were willing to support its activities and objectives. Some of the reasons for this were the lack of clear and measurable outcomes and indicators for the scheme. The scheme did not have a robust framework to demonstrate its impact and effectiveness in terms of carbon sequestration, biodiversity conservation, ecosystem services provision, and social and economic benefits for the local communities. The competition with other forest restoration approaches that were more popular or profitable, such as tree planting or carbon credits. The scheme focused on natural regeneration, which is the process of allowing forests to re-establish themselves without human intervention. However, natural regeneration is often overlooked or undervalued by funders and policymakers who prefer to see tangible results such as numbers of saplings planted or hectares of land covered. The uncertainty and volatility of the global and national contexts that affected the availability and stability of funding. The scheme was launched in 2021, when the world was facing multiple crises such as the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, biodiversity loss, and social unrest. These crises reduced the resources and attention that could be allocated to forest restoration initiatives, and also increased the risks and costs associated with them. Another challenge for the scheme was to implement its activities effectively and efficiently on the ground. Forest regeneration is not a simple or straightforward process. It requires careful planning and management, taking into account the ecological, social, and economic conditions of each site. However, the scheme encountered many difficulties in implementing its activities, such as the lack of technical knowledge and capacity among the staff and partners of the scheme. The scheme relied on a network of local organizations and communities to carry out its activities on the ground. However, many of these actors lacked the necessary skills and expertise to conduct natural regeneration practices, such as identifying suitable sites, protecting seed sources, controlling grazing and fire, removing invasive species, and enhancing natural succession. The lack of coordination and collaboration among the stakeholders involved in the scheme. The scheme involved multiple actors with different roles and responsibilities, such as landowners, managers, regulators, researchers, funders, and beneficiaries. However, there was no clear mechanism or platform to facilitate communication and cooperation among these actors, leading to conflicts of interest, duplication of efforts, or gaps in coverage. The lack of adaptation and flexibility to changing circumstances on the ground. The scheme had a fixed set of activities and targets that were designed at the beginning of the project. However, these activities and targets did not always match the reality or needs of each site or situation. For example, some sites had low potential for natural regeneration due to historical land use or environmental degradation. Some sites faced unexpected disturbances such as droughts or floods. Some sites required more intensive or diverse interventions than planned. A third challenge for the scheme was to monitor and evaluate its progress and performance over time. Forest regeneration is not a visible or immediate process. It takes years or decades for forests to recover their structure and function after disturbance. Therefore, it is essential to have a reliable and comprehensive system to track and measure the changes that occur in forest ecosystems and their associated benefits. However, the scheme lacked such a system for several reasons: the lack of appropriate methods and tools to monitor natural regeneration processes. The scheme used conventional methods such as satellite imagery or field surveys to monitor forest cover changes. However, these methods were not sufficient or suitable to capture the complexity and diversity of natural regeneration processes, such as changes in species composition, functional traits, genetic diversity, soil quality, and wildlife habitats. The lack of adequate resources and capacity to conduct monitoring activities. The scheme had limited funds and staff to collect and analyze data on forest regeneration outcomes and impacts. Moreover, the scheme faced logistical challenges in accessing remote or rugged sites where natural regeneration occurred. The lack of feedback loops and learning mechanisms to use monitoring results to inform decision-making and adaptive management. The scheme did not have a clear process or protocol to communicate and share monitoring findings with relevant stakeholders, or to use them to adjust or improve its activities and strategies based on emerging evidence or lessons learned. In summary, the forest regeneration scheme that we discussed in this video had a noble goal, but faced many challenges and obstacles that prevented it from making a significant difference. These challenges and obstacles were related to funding, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. In order to overcome these challenges and obstacles, the scheme would need to address some key issues, such as developing a clear and robust framework to define and measure its outcomes and impacts, securing adequate and consistent funding from various sources, building technical knowledge and capacity among its staff and partners, enhancing coordination and collaboration among its stakeholders, adapting its activities and targets to local conditions, applying appropriate methods and tools to monitor natural regeneration processes, allocating sufficient resources and capacity to conduct monitoring activities, establishing feedback loops and learning mechanisms to use monitoring results. By addressing these issues, the scheme could potentially improve its effectiveness and efficiency, and achieve its goal of restoring degraded lands with native trees and plants. The Forest Regeneration Scheme that was launched by the government in May 2021 was supposed to support the natural regeneration of trees and create new woodlands in England. However, after 2 years, the scheme has failed to make a significant difference in restoring forests and their benefits. According to the Forestry Commission, only 192 hectares of natural colonization have been established through the scheme, which is less than 4% of the total new woodland recorded in England in 2021-22. This area is smaller than Regent's Park in London, and far below the government's target of increasing Britain's forest cover by 30,000 hectares annually by 2025. The scheme has also failed to deliver on its promises of mitigating climate change, boosting biodiversity, and reducing flooding. Natural regeneration is one of the cheapest, efficient and most wildlife-friendly ways of increasing tree cover and capturing carbon. Trees that grow naturally from seeds or roots have more genetic diversity and resilience than planted saplings. They also create more complex and diverse habitats for animals and plants, including rare and endangered species. Natural regeneration can also help reduce flooding by slowing down water runoff and increasing soil infiltration. This can benefit local communities that are vulnerable to extreme weather events and water scarcity. Moreover, natural regeneration can enhance the social and cultural values of forests by allowing people to reconnect with nature and enjoy its beauty and benefits. However, the scheme has not supported natural regeneration enough to achieve these outcomes. The main barriers to natural regeneration are overgrazing by livestock and deer, invasive weeds, lack of seed sources, and land use conflicts. The scheme has not addressed these issues effectively or provided enough incentives for landowners and farmers to let trees grow naturally. Instead, the scheme has focused more on planting trees than letting them regenerate. Planting saplings can have some benefits, but it is more costly and less effective than natural regeneration. Planted trees often have lower survival rates and growth rates than naturally regenerated trees. They also have less genetic diversity and adaptability to changing conditions. Moreover, planting trees can create monocultures that are prone to pests, diseases, and fire. Therefore, the Forest Regeneration Scheme has been a disappointment for those who hope to see more forests restored in England. The scheme has not only wasted money and resources, but also missed an opportunity to harness the power of nature to heal itself. The scheme needs to be revised and improved to support natural regeneration more effectively and efficiently. Otherwise, it will continue to fail to make a difference for forests and their benefits.